Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Kyle Roerink joins us. He's Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network. He's here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Kyle Roerink. He is Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
Pleasure to be back, Sam. Thank you.
So first of all, for those that may not remember, you were also press secretary to Congresswoman Dina Titus, so spent a long time in D.C., and prior to that, a reporter for the Las Vegas Sun. See, long memory here.
That's
Can't get away with anything around here. Just your thoughts on the election and what's happened post-election.
Well, as we know, today is the big day where delegates from the Electoral College are going to be filling essentially state capitals throughout the nation to cast their votes for Joe Biden to become president. And I think the will of the people has been heard multiple times and vetted through courts, and it's time to move on. I think where I think the system has shown itself to work. I think the system has shown itself to give aggrieved parties a venue to air their grievances, but it's time to move on, I think.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. Everybody has the right to sue. Under any circumstances. It's whether the court chooses to hear the case or not. And if you believe that you have a just cause, you should continue to sue until there's no final relief. If the Supreme Court bounces it back, you're done. So I've got no argument with that. But the other interesting side of this is, with all of these situations, whether it's a Supreme Court nominee or the election, it's all about fundraising. Everybody on every side. At this point, the Trump campaign has raised over $200 million. Since the election. That's stunning.
That's right, and I think it speaks to a number of people out there, who had concerns. But I think again, the kind of the underlying tenet of our democracy is faith in our institutions and faith in our fellow Americans. And so I think, it'd be responsible to, stop putting out those fundraising letters to supporters saying, we can do this, we can overturn the election, because they're not going to be able to do it.
All right, but on the flip side of the coin, and I'm not going to name the congressperson, but there's a congressperson in Nevada who I'm on the mailing list for, who was sending out emails requesting money on election day at noon, saying, please send money. And it has been a continuous cycle from certain senators in Nevada and certain congresspeople all the way through. So it's not just one side, it's everybody raising money at every turn.
Well, I mean, you look at the cost of elections these days, and that's one aspect to it. But I think, members of any party, they like to have a war chest. That money can be used for a variety of things under the law, to not only help yourself, but to help other members of your party, other members of your delegation, you name it. And so it's kind of the more bucks you got in the bank, there's kind of some unspoken clout that you have there.
Oh, to say the least. And it's also interesting to look at the schisms in both parties. You've got people in both parties who are moderates and centrists, and people to the extremes. And do you think the Democrats learned a lesson in this election that some of the far left views were not helpful in terms of what happened in the Senate and the House?
Well, I was born right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and so I think Connor Lamb, a congressman representing that Western Pennsylvania district, is emblematic of that, because he's likely not to vote for Pelosi as as Speaker, and I think you'll see him kind of break with the majority of the delegation, and he says it all the time. This just isn't what my constituents want, and so I don't think those rifts are going away, whether it be on the left or on the right. I think you can see the same thing on the right as it relates to Trump, and there are all these think pieces being written right now, stories every day on the news about, what's next for the GOP, the kind of the post-mortem Monday morning quarterback looks. And so, yeah, I don't think these struggles are going away anytime soon for the party. You see it with President-elect Biden and the cabinet nominations as well. I think, the pages of the New York Times were filled with those stories yesterday. So, and the same thing on the right. These rifts are not going away, and they'll keep it exciting for folks like yourself, Sam, and political junkies like me.
Oh, no, absolutely. And, one has to be aware that you can be as outspoken as you want, but if you want to get things accomplished in D.C. or move up in the ranks, beware of taking on the leadership. For example, Shelley Berkeley spent, 17 years in Congress, but when she first went to D.C., she did not support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker, never moved up from a backbencher.
Fealty to leadership is essential for that. It's it's a given, and so I think, yeah, you got to fall in line to get what you want, and that's kind of the fun of politics, and again, kind of the palace intrigue for folks on the outside. It's how does it tick? How does it work? And a lot of it does start with fealty to leadership.
Yeah, I remember Nancy Pelosi being asked about the squad at a certain point in the cycle, and she said, well, they're just 4 votes.
That's
Doesn't say it any better than that, does it?
You're absolutely right. Vote counting is kind of politics 101. So, and yeah, when you're a member of Congress, your vote can be spread pretty thin pretty quickly.
Do you think that it's a surprise that so many people don't realize that there's only 2 camps really in the United States? There's a Republican camp and a Democratic camp, and so as announcements are being made about who's going to be, leading what committees, et cetera, in the Biden campaign or presidency now, that so many people are coming from the Obama administration or the Clinton administration. There is no hidden team that's sitting there waiting to come out of the shadows that we've never heard of that are suddenly going to be the new team.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're seeing, at least the way I'm kind of looking at it, is what is the easiest pathway for confirmation for certain cabinet members. And so I think Secretary Vilsack with the Department of Agriculture is probably the easiest example to go from right now. He's served there before under the Obama years. He's going to serve there again. And you're going to have this confirmation process. And I think, there still kind of is that level of decorum in the U.S. Senate where a senator who had voted to confirm someone in the past isn't going to want to say, well, I changed my mind this time, unless there was something that really warranted, a change in decision. But I think a lot of it comes down to what is the easiest way to get the confirmations just over and done with.
It was also interesting over the last few months to watch the court system in action. And Linda Greenhouse, who was the longtime Supreme Court correspondent for the New York Times, wrote an opinion piece describing how the court operates and saying that the court is its own thing. It does not do necessarily what a president wants or what the Congress wants, and it has its own history and it's going to follow its own pathway. And we've really seen that in the last couple of weeks with, perhaps two exceptions, Justice Thomas and Alito. But apart from that, the rest of the Supreme Court seemed to flow in the way you would hope that the Supreme Court would, which would be in a very independent way. And I'm not saying Alito and Thomas weren't being independent. I'm just saying it was different than one might have expected.
Well, folks were certainly ballyhooing Amy Coney Barrett's decision last week as it relates to the Texas lawsuit in the Supreme Court. I think the courts have shown themselves to work, and especially here in Nevada, a very well-known judge who heard a case from the Trump campaign. I think it's kind of well understood that this judge is a Trump supporter when he's not in the halls of justice, but when he was there, he threw out one of those lawsuits. And I think, again, what we have seen over the past couple months is that, that the system is working. Kind of the underlying fundamental foundational tenets of our democracy can still stand to see another day.
Despite what some of the news networks might let you think. Because, that's something that's out there constantly, is this fear-mongering that attracts audiences, has people glued to their TVs, has them concerned about the Constitution, has them concerned that things will never be righted. But in fact, the reality is that these systems work very well and have done for several hundred years now.
It's a reason why I watch Nevada Newsmakers and I don't watch cable news
anymore.
Oh,
bless you. Okay, we're going to take a break right here. I will slip the 20 across the table. We'll be right back with Kyle Roerink. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're going to turn our conversation with Kyle Roerink to his actual daytime job as Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network. So there was an interesting article in the most recent edition of Range magazine talking about the Southern Nevada Water Authority and about the fact that despite the fact that at this point they say that building that Eastern Nevada pipeline is not in their plans for decades, that they still are hanging on to all the ranches in Eastern Nevada. So let's start there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think just as a little backup, we had a major legal victory in the spring. And with that victory came a decision by the SNWA and the state to not appeal that decision to the Nevada Supreme Court. And after they decided to do that, we still we had some demands, and the SNWA largely met those demands by pooling water rights applications for that project that had yet to be heard, by pooling an application for a right-of-way on federal lands. And Mr. Ensminger was always very upfront with me. We had kind of talked about this before everything became news, and he said, we're going to keep the ranches, and I kind of always expected that. And so, that was not a shock. I think, they did defer the project indefinitely, and they have doubled down on conservation. And I honestly think I've been their number one, spokesperson in a way, saying, they are the best along the Colorado River when it comes to conservation. And you can look at the numbers and you can just see what they're doing, the investments that they're making. They're doing all the right things, right now and for the foreseeable future. The fact that they're hanging on to the ranches, there's a lot of speculation out there about what that could be for.
What, for example?
And, could they want to do another groundwater grab 70, 80, 90 years from now? Maybe that's a possibility. Could they use it for mitigation, as we kind of say in our discourse community, as where, if you're gonna, harm land somewhere else, they could use the ranches as kind of a trade-off for that. Maybe that's another example. Maybe they just want to, stay in the livestock business. I don't really know. I don't think, that's not where I need to be focusing 100% of my energy right now. But that story in Range magazine was certainly an interesting one.
Yes, to say the least. They are definitely a leading voice on doing these kind of investigations. It just seems to me that, and we're saying this with the Nevada Blueprint, that so many of these plans that go out 30, 50 years and beyond, and you're talking now 70, 80 years, that none of us are going to be around to be discussing this at the time. No politician who says, we want to have, 100% renewable within 50 years or 40 years or whatever it might be, is going to be in office, at that point. So it's very easy to say whatever you want to say. In fact, if you want a bizarre comparison, but, look at Detroit, when the major motor companies made all these deals with the unions to give them all these incredible benefits. And they knew that they weren't going to be the CEO or, the head of the company when all of these things were going to kick in. And there were devastating results from that. So, you know, we really don't know. It's easy to say, yeah, within 30 years we're going to do blah, 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 but...
That's right. And I think, and then it comes down to, you know, what is a fundamental tenet of at least Nevada water law, and I think, you know, a number of other areas of law, is just the public trust. And, you know, some of that is implied looking out, you know, for generations to come, and what is the best interest. You know, when we're gone, you know, how do we want this country to be, or at least what is that vision that we have inside of our heads whenever we're gone? And so, I think that, you know, that's something else to consider in all of this.
Well, something that was going to be a much bigger issue in the sooner than later category was last December. Marilyn Kirkpatrick said on this program, the chair of the Clark County Commission, that she thought Ivanpah Airport would be online before her time in office was done, which would have been 10 years. Now, with the pandemic and the resulting, you know, troubles on the Las Vegas Strip and obviously at McCarran Airport, it would seem that the need for Ivanpah is pushed back a long ways. And that, to me, would have been a catalyst for, you know, the need, you know, 1 million extra people in the Las Vegas Valley, seeing that additional water was going to be needed from somewhere.
That's right. And I think, you know, with Ivanpah and the issues of growth literally all the way south down to the California border there, it's something I'm looking at very closely. You know, there's some pieces of federal legislation that could help expedite you know, that type of growth. But I think when it does come down to it, we kind of have to be looking at, so what happens after 2070? Because there are going to be people, when people move to a place, it's implied that water will always be there for them. And, you know, I would just hate to set up a situation where the state is at odds again and you're splitting rural Nevada versus metropolitan Nevada, and, you know, you get into, you know, what my organization dealt with was decades of litigation and just fighting one another.
Right, but the Southern Nevada Water Authority has said that they have, with their current reserves,
Absolutely,
water for that Ivanpah development. But let's take a break. We'll come back more right after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Carl Roerink. He is the Executive Director of Great Basin Water Network. You brought up lands, and looking at the Clark County Lands Bill and talking to your old boss, Congresswoman Titus, it seems like that is going nowhere.
Well, I'm hearing that it's going to be introduced this week in like the final minutes.
Really?
In the final minutes of this Congress. And
By whom?
I'm hearing it's just scuttlebutt by Senator Cortez Masto, but I think that's just a signal more for the next Congress that, like, hey, this is something that we want to work on. And so, I don't want to. That was just through the grapevine, some things I was hearing last week, but I think, it'll be of subject in the upcoming Congress because, there are a lot of different interests that want a lot of different things, and, a bill like that, those lands bills have been known to generate money for governments across the state by selling off public lands. And my personal opinion is that considering the COVID budget crunches, I think, there may be a push to do that.
Well, you've got so many interesting things economically going on, where with interest rates at 0% and the Fed saying we're willing to lend whatever is necessary, who knows by the time we're done. And now over this past weekend, we're hearing that the bill that's going through Congress right now, they're trying to get done this week. As we're taping this on the 14th of December, that there'll be $750 billion allotted to helping all these various entities. But by April, there'll be another bill back on the table that will take care of the rest. So it's going to be a fascinating time to watch all this.
It sure will, Sam. I think that state and local government funding will just be such a crucial piece in all of this. So,
if only we could get past the politics.
That's right.
And of course, we never will. No. Always great to see you, Carl. Come back soon.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back.
Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.